Chiefs Kingdom, welcome back to All Chiefed Up. We're back with another podcast for that ass. And today we're looking at ESPN's Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest 2-round mock draft. Going to see what he took for the Chiefs, Steve. Let's talk about it.
Before we get started, I just want to say thanks for watching All Chiefed Up. Hit that like button, hit that sub button if you haven't already. Mike, let's get this thing rolling. It looks like Mel Kiper took Xavier Legette, wide receiver from South Carolina, at pick 32 for the Chiefs in the first round. Mike, this is a receiver that we thought about taking for the Chiefs at this juncture in our latest predictions.
Right.
But we ended up taking Worthy because in that particular scenario, Xavier Legette had gone earlier and Worthy had fell. So we were able to trade back and still snag him. So that's the only reason that we did that. But I like the Xavier Legette pick for the Chiefs.
Right. We actually have Xavier Worthy rated one spot higher than Legette. So we had Worthy at 7 and we've got Legette at 8 on our wide receiver rankings. But technically, it's just different strokes for different folks. They're two different wide receivers. They're going to offer two different things. But I really do like Xavier Legette's size, the 6'1.5", 221, and he is elite in 3 out of the 6 different categories. His 40-yard dash time's a 4.39, his 10-yard split's a 1.54, and his vert is 40 inches. And just to put that in perspective, at a 4.39, Steve, that is a faster 40-yard time than Justin Jefferson. That is a faster 1.54 10-yard split time than Jamar Chase. So when you put that together with his vert and the fact that he has a contested catch rate of almost 50%, Xavier Legette, I think, is a sneaky pick to get into the late part of round 1.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not gone before the Chiefs pick at 32, because in our scenario, we had the Bills snagging him. But I think in this one, particular one, that Mel Kiper had Brian Thomas Jr. falling all the way to Buffalo, so that's what kind of changed it up a little bit. We didn't have that in our scenario. But with Xavier Legette, I think that you have a much higher ceiling than you have with Xavier Worthy. It might be a boom or bust pick, but I just feel like he can do a lot of things. My comp for him is kind of a DK Metcalf or an A.J. Brown, but at times I see a little bit of Jamar Chase in there too, with that speed with the ball in his hands, man. But here's what Mel Kiper had to say. He said, another mock draft, another wideout connected with the Chiefs to end round 1. Legette made a leap in 2023, putting 1,255 receiving yards with 7 touchdowns. He had just 167 yards in the entire 2022 season. He then ran an eye-popping 4.39 40-yard dash at the combine, solidifying himself among the top 10 prospects at his position. Kansas City added Marquise Brown, but needs to add more pass catchers to this offense. Mike, that's exactly what I'm thinking too. I know Chiefs Kingdom's hot on getting a receiver in this draft, especially early. What do you think?
Right. I mean, Marquise Brown's here for essentially one season. I think he's going to do well. I think he may play himself out of a contract here. We know Brett Veach doesn't like to overspend at wide receiver. I do think he will look for a young guy in this class. This is a very deep class that he can have work behind Marquise Brown. Also, we've got the offseason issues now with Rashee Rice. It looks like he's going to miss 6 games, 4 games, whatever it may be. He may miss some time there. So you do have to have another guy out there. Our receiver room is not the deepest. We've seen that last year. Brett Veach really didn't do anything to address it, but it turned out to be enough in the end to win the Super Bowl. So I do think they do have to address a wide receiver early. Will they go round 1? I really don't know. But Xavier Legette is a guy. He's, like you said, a boom-bust guy. He does have a little smaller hands, but with his drop rate being under 3% and his contested catch rate being at 50%, I think that's something Patrick Mahomes needs.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't agree more. So I do like the first pick from Mel Kiper. Then in the second round at pick 64, he has the Chiefs taking a familiar name here. All Chiefed Up kind of unleashed the popularity of Kingsley Suamataia, and now he is picking him at 64 for the Chiefs. Of course, the offensive tackle from BYU. Here's what Mel Kiper had to say. With 2023 starter Donovan Smith unsigned, the Chiefs have Wanya Morris at left tackle, but not much else. They should bring in competition. Suamataia, my number 9 offensive tackle in this class, took snaps at both left and right tackle in college, but he made huge strides while playing on the left side last season. He's strong and quick, and he has the feet to get to the second level in the run game. Mike, of course, we like Kingsley. We had predicted him to the Chiefs twice now. Once in the end of the first round, once for a trade up in the second round. And here's Mel Kiper sitting here saying that he could potentially be available at pick 64. What do you think?
Right. Well, look, Mel Kiper, a lot of people say, he don't know what he's talking about, this or that. He's got lots of insiders. He's done this for 30, 40 years. He's got a lot of people he talks to. And if he thinks Kingsley's fallen a little bit, I do believe Kingsley's fallen a little bit. I've also heard from people and different things that I've talked with that Kingsley is more valued from mock drafters than he is from GMs. They see a lot of potential, but again, it's boom bust. And if you're going to take a guy in the early top 40, top 50 picks, he has to be not so much of a project, but a guy you want to come in and play right off the rip. And we've said this time and time again, Suamataia is great. Penei Sewell's cousin, he tested just as good or better than Penei Sewell. But we also said that against Wanye, he's not a guy that's going to come in and beat out Wanye week 1 probably. So I think Wanye is the answer going forward with the Chiefs. I think Andy and the Chiefs really like him. Will they bring in competition like Kingsley? I think you have to. Suamataia is also our number 9 offensive tackle. So I think that's kind of cool that Mel Kiper's seen him the same way we did. So, I mean, there are ways to do this. I don't think he falls to 64 ultimately. I think where we had him, if he gets somewhere around that mid-40s to early 50s, the Chiefs have to trade up because after Kingsley and that number 9, number 10 range with maybe Patrick Paul, there's not a lot of offensive tackles. So if you're going to address that, you've got to do it quick.
Absolutely. And I think I kind of like this pick from Mel Kiper because I'm with you. I really like Kingsley, and I wouldn't be mad if they took him at the end of the first, straight up in the second round. But if they were to get him at 64, I'd be ecstatic. Right. Because I think he's going to definitely give some competition to Wanye Morris, which, like you said, I think the Chiefs are leaning towards for being their left tackle. They must have some faith in him because they're not making any type of move for it. We still haven't heard anything about them maybe signing back Donovan Smith. But we've always said there's not much of a drop-off from Donovan Smith, the veteran, to rookie last year, Wanye Morris. There's not much of a drop-off at all. So I would be okay with that. But overall, those 2 picks for just the first 2 rounds, I think are pretty damn solid, Mike. I really like Xavier Legette. You know that he's one of my guys. I think he's just an excellent player. Of course, he had a small window of production, like just 1 year sample size. So people are kind of afraid about that. But I kind of did a short about that, talking why that was. And if you really look into that, it was nothing really that he did wrong. It's actually him working hard to get that opportunity and then exploding onto the scene. So I really like Xavier Legette, and of course I like Kingsley. So I would give this like an A, like an A plus maybe, if the Chiefs were able to pull this off in the first 2 rounds. Yeah,
I think the Kingsley Suamataia value right there at 64 is just crazy. He's actually number 47 on our big board. We reached a little bit on Xavier Legette. We had him rated number 35 on our big board, and we took him at 32. But that's what you have to do at the end of the first round. There's only 15 to 20, and I'm going to say with this class, it's more closer to 13 to 17 first round evaluations. And after that, you're just looking for guys that you think can come in and develop over time. So I think Xavier Legette hits that on the head. I think he's boom or bust. He fits what we like to do. He's good with the ball in his hands. He gives Patrick a big throwing window, and he'll go catch the ball with a deep speed threat. And I really like his attitude. And then, again, Kingsley at 64, you cannot ask for better value there. I think he's a good project guy. He can get out in the zone run blocking. He does that really well. He does have to work on his feet a little more in his hand placement and pass protection, but I think that's something you work around with Wanye Morris, and then whoever wins the left tackle position, the other one's ready to kick around and be a swing offensive lineman anywhere up and down the line. So I think it's I give Mel Kiper an A+ for that one for the Chiefs.
Absolutely, man. And it looks like at the end of the first round, it's really going to depend on how these wide receivers fall in this draft. I feel like if Xavier Worthy goes higher, like a lot of people think he could because of his 40 time at the combine, then the Chiefs could be looking at getting a Xavier Legette or something like that at that juncture. But if he were to fall, it could be a totally different story. We have no idea. It's really going to depend on how this all falls out. So however you decide to make the scenario through the first round really depends on what the Chiefs are going to do, because I think the Chiefs are in a position to kind of take best player available in this draft, because I just think that they don't have anything they have to do. A lot of people think they have to do wide receiver, they have to do tackle. I don't think they have to do anything. I think the Chiefs are in a great position. They're the Super Bowl champions. They didn't really lose a whole lot. I think that they could pretty much take best player available.
Right. Well, I was under the consideration that we needed to look more at our defensive end. And now they've signed back Mike Dana to a really nice 3-year deal. He's not elite per se, but he's going to give you between 5 and 10 sacks possibly, and he's a good rotational guy. I think that stops the bleeding there, so you don't have to take one early. I will say this. The more I'm hearing about Darius Robinson's pro day at Missouri, he lit it up again, and he has had a great offseason, and people are saying it would be a shame if he falls out of round 1, and it would shock them. So I think he is a spot-on, getting into the first round lock at this point, and if Darius Robinson falls to the Chiefs, I still put that really high on our board, because that'd be a great piece for Steve Spagnuolo.
Right. But see, if you look at Mel Kiper's predictions, he thinks that Darius Robinson's actually going to go at 27 to the Cardinals. Wouldn't even be available for the Chiefs unless they were to trade up. So that's how much Darius Robinson's trending up. And then a couple other guys going down, man. So it's just good to look at these scenarios and kind of get an idea. And it really puts into perspective that it's very, very hard to predict what's going to happen in this draft. There's just so many variables, so many things can happen. But we appreciate you guys being here with us today. Make sure to hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe. See ya.
Go Chiefs.